Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Good morning to everybody who has not melted away in the summer heat.
I'm telling you that every single day, I'm like, walk out of the house, the air is thick for the most part. It starts early in the morning and just doesn't really let up.
Yeah, I was out walking at like 6:15 this morning, and man, it was brutal even then.
Yeah, my wife.
I love this time of year. I mean, I cannot complain. I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love summer, but this has been kind of a slow, brutal burn or something like that. I don't know. I just consistently high humidity, high temperatures. Just day after day after day, we get some afternoon thunderstorms in the mix. It's been a little more of the typical Washington D.C. summer than we've had for a while.
Yeah.
But I was getting
not
used
the high highs. I mean, it's not a lot of like 100-degree days.
Right.
It's a lot of 93s and 94s.
Yeah.
With 90% humidity, which is pretty darn hot.
Yeah. No, it's just my wife and I will try to go out maybe and try to get some shopping in early, and that means going to Costco for executive club hours at 9 o'clock, and even you just walk out and sometimes she's like, oh, maybe we should stay home. Yeah, but it's like, oh, it has been brutal in that way. Just kind of almost as like it's just kind of grinding you down, in a sense. But this is life in DC. I mean,
that's right. We get 4 distinct seasons here.
Right.
We have a fall that's an actual fall, lasts a pretty good while. We have you get a good full lick of winter every year, and spring you kind of get gypped on a little bit, but the rest of them are pretty good.
Yeah, for all the young people I work with that come out of Utah and parts of Arizona where they're used to just an arid climate, they're okay with 90 to 100-degree heat. It's that humidity. It's like, what happened?
I don't understand. And like my in-laws live in Arizona, right? Like down south Arizona, it's hot, and they live on a golf course, and I was staying there, and I went across to play golf. It was like noon one day, and it was warm, but it wasn't like you say, it's not that humid, so you don't feel like you can feel a little breeze. You don't feel that hot. So it's like 105 degrees. So I go over there to play golf, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I was going to go coming in to play golf." He goes, "Well," he goes, "We're." And it's noon, right? And he goes, "I'm kind of closed." He goes, "Can you just take a cart and go play and don't tell anybody?" And he just didn't charge me 18 holes in a cart for free.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like, I'm surprised he just didn't just blurt out, says, "Are you crazy? Where are you from?"
Yeah. It's kind of like, what are you doing here? You nutbag. And like, there's a few other courses around there I go play from time to time, and they're all like $19, $14, right? Because no one's there. So because it's hot, but it's a kind of heat I can handle because it's not that humid.
Right. Yeah. It just you gotta love it. Anyway, like you said, we have 4 distinct seasons. It's really nice to have those seasons.
Yeah.
And nothing against people who live in areas where there's a moderate climate all the year round and all these kind of things. But since I grew up with this is what I love. This is what I like. And I take these hot, sticky days along with some other cool fall days and spring days, and in the end, it's really nice.
Yeah. And so last week, we went up. We were up in New York State, like upstate New York, Rochester, Buffalo. Went to Maid of the Mist up on the Canadian border. That's a different world. I mean, they have a different summer than we do, right? It's 85 is a very hot day there, and generally by the evening you got a nice breeze coming through. So I see why people hang out up there in the summer. I fully understand it.
Yep, we do understand that. All right, we have got a few things to get through today. Uh, we'll start overseas because we've got a few things happening over there. We have some protests in Ukraine, and I guess this was over what is a security law. I mean, eh, I don't know. I mean, is this something Zelensky needs to be worried about in terms of how he's approached this whole thing? You know, he's held it together during this war against Russia, but this seems to be a little bit of a crack here in terms of what he did here versus getting a popular uprising. I guess I don't know. Maybe Putin is sitting going there, ha, and now we've got him on the ropes a little bit or something. I don't know. What's your opinion about what the heck's going on over
Well, I
there?
think they are both leaders. The challenge for them now is that you can't say that you're going to provide a quick solution, right? There's no quick solution. Any efforts of that have been quelled. Any hopes of that have been eliminated. So you're now telling your populace on both sides, we're in this for the long haul. You think we may be closer to the beginning than we are to the end of this war, right? It could be many more years, right? So now those publics start to look at that differently. It's like the Russians, they went in, they were counting on getting it done in a week, right? And now we're up to 4 years or so, right? What is it?
Right. Yeah, part of this, was just that, we know that, part of the problem is corruption. And so
Right.
they've had this anti-corruption task force or whatever they call it, and it looks, Zelensky targeted them, and that seems to have sparked an uprising, which may or may not be a long-term problem or situation, but when you're a leader, I think you have to show, I don't know, some transparency that you are interested in making sure that that you are interested in fighting corruption, because charges get leveled against governments like this all the time, and in this case, it looks like on the surface to people, to the population, that he's basically weakening the anti-corruption forces, uh, and would is basically allowing more corruption to occur, which doesn't sit well with some of the base population at this time. And he doesn't.
And the donors, right? The whole point of the anti-corruption campaign is us. We're the recipients of that. Like, please keep sending us aid. We're not being corrupt with it, right? That's what this thing is there for. So, he wants to cut it off. There must be something there that we need to be worried about.
Well, so because we've had for quite a while now, we've had a lot of people, a number of Republicans in Congress that have questioned the amount of aid that we've given to Ukraine and Zelensky, and part of that is based on where exactly how is this money being spent and how is this material being used, and then you see him kind of strike against the anti-corruption forces, and you're like, well, that probably emboldens a lot of Republicans saying, like, see, we kind of have, our suspicions may be true, that we,
right.
You're saying, as you said, we're donors. It's like, how are you proving that you really need this aid and that it's going to flow the way it needs to, when you seem to be weakening anti-corruption laws and efforts at a time when you still need to make sure that this is clear, that everything is good, for the most part. It's never going to be perfect, right? But I don't know that you want to be out there when you're getting accused of basically kind of almost dismantling or partially dismantling anti-corruption efforts when you're receiving the kind of money they're receiving from the U.S. and other countries.
Right. You're breaking faith with them. And it's a key for American politicians to be able to tell the American people that they think the money's being well spent.
Yeah.
they can't confidently do that, you're going to get a different response.
Yeah, and I've been very pro Ukraine, but even I think this is then you get the people who've been very much saying like we're going to back him because what Russia's done is unconscionable, but then he does this, and you just kind of if your support is somewhat wavering in some respects, this is not the way to go about increasing your support.
Right, that's right. Yeah,
So
it's like it's not to weaken the. I guess he has somebody over there putting pressure on him to weaken it so they can get a bigger dip or whatever. But
yeah,
you can't put up with that. Your whole future, your country's on the line. This has got to work.
yeah.
So yeah, I think you will see some efforts at getting it back to where it looks presentable to us. I mean, that's we're the audience. The U.S. is the audience. Also think that on the other hand, if you look at what happened last week with Trump and Scotland announcing, I don't think anything's been signed, announcing the trade deal with the EU. And a big part of that trade deal is buying the European countries are going to buy a bunch of U.S. made military equipment, and they're going to donate or whatever a good sizable portion of it to Ukraine, to the effort in Ukraine. So now, Putin is going to be facing an emboldened and well-supplied enemy again, right? And one kind of on the march, right? He had his chance to make a deal with Trump. Trump, promised there'd be a deal on the first day. He didn't deliver that. He tried to get it done as quickly as he could. Putin made some feints toward cooperation. Then he made some feints toward non-cooperation. And now Trump has taken the measure of him and has decided he's not going to cooperate. So with that in mind, what they're going to do is they're going to, Trump was lining up the Europeans, so we're all going to go after him, right? It's about to turn dark for Putin. It won't be very quickly, but it'll in the near range, in the near future, you're going to start seeing a lot of pressure on Russia and Putin and the Russian military and all of Europe behind it. So, Trump is going to line up all of Europe behind this.
Yeah, I mean, Putin has been kind of stringing Trump along. Trump has been very patient with Putin, trying to get him to, sign a deal. Let's end this thing. I want this behind me, and Putin just keeps stringing them along, and I'm sure that President Trump is extremely frustrated with Putin.
He's had it with the stringing along. He's preparing to take action right now.
Yeah, and I think in regard to just as well as the tariff deal, that we're where they're going to be buying this equipment to send to Ukraine. I think I read that the tariff that Trump is talking about on India was that he's also penalizing India for selling goods to Russia. So they're going to get hit with 25% of whatever they send to us, but they're being penalized because of their dealings with Russia.
Which is good, honor the sanctions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's the thing. I mean, we're years into this thing where there's been sanctions, but Russia keeps chugging along because they found loopholes and ways to get around the sanctions, and they're still able to run their economy, not really well, but they're still able to run the economy.
Yeah, their head's still above water a little bit.
Yeah, and everything. So it was interesting though. I was reading a story in the Wall Street Journal about recruitment of Russia's recruitment of people and soldiers. And we've talked about they've emptied out the prisons, kind of a thing. They've been they put some middle-aged or little older guys out there to fight because they're just trying to they were throwing up whatever they can. They added North Korean troops, which have become kind of cannon fodder in essence. They're sacrificial lambs. But the journal they filed a story of a guy who he had a job. I mean, and he had a wife, but what was happening was that Russia kept dangling more and more money in front of people to join the
Right.
army, in essence. And so, I guess he told his wife, when we reach, I don't know what it was, 3,000 rubles or whatever, there was a mark, because I had kept ratcheting it up. He says, if they offer this much, I'm enlisting, I'm signing up. And part of his thinking was, is like, look, I have got no skills when it comes to military training. I have no military training at all, so I will be behind the lines, not on the front line.
Right.
But as inevitably as happens with this, is that they don't have enough people, and he found himself on the front lines very, very quickly,
Yeah.
to the point that, I mean, I think he was there was either a firefight or it was a bombing, and he took some shrapnel to his leg, so he's walking kind of with a limp, and things like this, and he kind of regrets signing up, because that's not what he had signed up for. He thought, okay,
Yeah. It turns
I
out
can,
there's people out there trying to hurt you in this
yeah.
war thing.
And so, I mean, okay, so how kind of blinded by the money, how bad are things, when the money is driving it, and then you're not even thinking about, by the way, it's like, how many people have we lost in this war? What has happened to these inexperienced people? Where
Yep.
have they been posted? Mostly to the front lines, and because they just have run out of people in certain
Yep.
places. So the chances are pretty good that you're going to wind up in combat, where you thought you were going to be maybe doing some desk duty or some other minor assignment,
Yep.
collect a paycheck that was better than what you were doing when you were home. But he was safe at home, he was healthy, he wasn't making a lot of money, but now he's an injured soldier, and he's just kind of stuck.
Right. Never
So
walk right again.
no, he won't as a result of that. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of those interesting situations. Uh, you know, Macron, I'm not quite sure what's his angle here. He's announced that they're going to, what, in September, recognize Palestine as a state, uh, and this is this has got a lot of people upset. I mean, he's now kind of breaking away from any kind of support of Israel in that sense, for this. And I don't know if this isolates France from other countries. Is there an angle in here where he thinks this is he's looking at the media and all the stories that they put out about what's going on out there, and he's just becoming overly sympathetic to the Palestinians, ignoring the terrors of Hamas. What's your
Well, it'll
take?
never, I mean, a two-state solution, it'll never work. The Palestinians wanted to try it. They should have took them up on it long ago, because now everybody realizes, you have this river to the sea stuff. They're not interested in coexisting with the Jews. They would be a state sponsor of terrorism from day one. And they would be a poor, needy, in need of aid and whatnot, with little infrastructure going forward, right from the jump. Plus, is just to be a state, you would have to recognize Israel. You would have to recognize Israel's right to exist, and they're not prepared to do that, and they probably never will be. So I'm not, I don't think it'll ever happen. I don't think Trump will ever let it happen. I think he's already come out and said no to this. So, I don't think it will go far. I think it would be a catastrophe for the Palestinians and the Israelis. So, we'll see, but I doubt that happens.
Yeah, but I mean, what does France? I mean, what does Macron hope to
Yeah,
gain from
why?
this?
What the question though? The question that you were getting at is really funny. Is like, why is Macron involved in this? What is he trying to pull? What does he see here? But I think he's trying to build like an anti-Trump European consensus, right? That we're going to be on the other side of this. And Europe has had a lot of problems with anti-Semitism. It's been a big, huge thing there. So he's kind of aligning with what he thinks are the national conversation in France. And he may well be right, given the overwhelming problems they're having with immigration there. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think, what do the other world leaders do? I guess Starmer, it looks like he is trying to buddy up to Trump. my guess is that he would not join in this. But I mean, he has a country full of Muslims too. And there's a lot of leftist countries in Europe that might jump at the chance to do this and to try to impose it on the U.S. and Israel, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, his polling, I mean, has been pretty miserable. I think it's been in the mid-20s. So
Macron, yeah.
yeah, Macron. So it probably can't go down a whole lot further in a lot of ways, but maybe he's thinking this will give him a bump. You know, he's so,
yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of puts you on the wrong side of history a little bit too,
yeah,
because you look kind of
yeah.
anti-Semitic, you know.
Yeah,
You look
yeah,
the way you're running your country, it's not a good look. It's kind of a pre-World War II Germany look.
yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, it's just that he's going out on a limb, and I just don't think this is going to work well for him. It just he's taking this shot, but which, you know, there'll be some people out there that think it's great, but there are a lot of others that are probably wondering the same thing we are. It's like, what is he doing? I mean, it's
Right.
you know, but except as you said, I mean, kind of deciding that, you know, he wants to create an anti-Trump kind of movement or something or other effort in Europe, and so this is one way of doing it. But I think this does not help him politically in the long run, as far as I'm concerned.
No, the other one I don't think helps him politically in the wrong run, even though they may win it. Is, you know, he and his wife are suing Candace Owens because she insists the wife is a guy. Yeah. And the new one out today is, and she is his father.
Okay, so, look, you know,
Kansas walks her own road. We're not involved in that.
Yeah, look, you know, Candace Owens, whatever. Okay,
Right.
It's like, I am not backing that horse.
Yeah, I wait your enormous stack of proof.
Yeah,
you got your stack of proof. I really want to look into it, but
yeah,
you know, I don't know. I don't know what her claim is based on. Maybe she has a lot of evidence. I don't know. I've never looked into it, but it's just like, you know, even if it's true, right? Even if you really did have a reliable witness and some, you know, form of proof, right? Who cares?
Yeah.
Why are we making a big problem about that?
You know, though, I mean, in this world that we live in with President Trump and the MAGA base and everything like that, you know, Candace is doing well. I mean, it's just it drives me crazy because
and she's not a base. MAGA is not. She's not popular with MAGA.
Right, but she can kind of ride coattails by just being this outlandish person, because we've got a world full of them now. Right. You know, it's just they just keep popping up and piling on, and she's trying to keep her head above all the rest. I mean, she's been around a while and stay, so she wants to be relevant, but you know, it's like when I hear Candace Owens, I was like, next subject, please.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Like, don't hold me responsible.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know. If you give money to Candace Owens, yeah, that's your free will and your free choice, but that's the furthest thing I'm ever going to do. Right. is support her. That's, I don't know. I don't know what's happened. It just, things get too wild. There was this episode where President Trump, you know, made this remarkable visit to the Federal Reserve buildings that are under, you know, renovation, construction, and everything like that. And the video clip from that was almost priceless when you know, Trump pulls out his new estimate thing, and the look on Jerome Powell's face was like, "What the heck are you talking about?" and all of this. But it did, you know, it did give me a clear understanding of, at least I think I have it right in terms of why. You know, I've been wondering ever since this whole brouhaha, you know, cropped up, is that, where did this third building come from? And I didn't, you know, it's not that they built a third building. There was another building on Constitution Avenue that they took over, and so they're renovating that, you know, along with the Eccles building. So, and then the building that my father complained about for years, that was renovated apparently years ago. So, you know, construction, easy to kind of, say, okay, well, this is the total cost of all of these renovations.
Right.
And they ran into, I mean, what they're trying to do with those old historic buildings on Constitution Avenue, that's a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah.
I think when they went to Capitol
it is.
Hill for the money, they had no idea really what they were going to find. How many times have we seen construction projects and they're going like, uh-oh,
Yeah,
here's a
and not just like 4%, but like 40%.
yeah.
Like, okay, somebody did not really understand the assignment here.
Yeah, and they're limited, right? I mean, they're trying to add on to the buildings, okay, but there are restrictions about doing that because these are historical buildings built in like 1930s. They can
Right.
go under, but the problem as they have, as they dug down was that whole area is a filled-in swamp.
Yeah.
So there's an issue about water.
Right. That's right.
So you go down there, you better figure out a way to make sure you keep things watertight, waterproof, because this was not what that land was meant to have, is have these huge buildings sitting on this land. You can make it work, but it's going to be very costly, particularly in today's terms.
Right.
The two of them seem to have kind of, I think Trump has kind of realizes that the construction thing, not really a hill for that he wants to die on. He just wants to keep hammering Powell on interest rates and hoping that he gets something. But he has to remember, Powell is one member of the Federal Open Market Committee. All right, there's 12 people who vote, so he's got a jawbone enough to get others to move his way. And as I understand it, with the meetings today, is that they might get a second vote against in favor of raising interest rates, so that the movement is starting to go, a little bit more towards cutting of interest rates. But we're not there yet. And as I've been reading about this too, is that we have been focused on short-term interest rates, which is what the interest rate cuts tend to affect most directly at first. But that we have to watch out for the long-term interest rates, which can come back and bite. And the last time the Fed cut, that's what happened. We wound up seeing long-term interest rates spike. And so this is always a delicate dance for economists, is trying to figure out, it's like, how much of this is going to affect that,
Right.
and all of this. And they're not always right. I mean,
Right.
we know that as well. We've
it's
got
a bad time for economists, right? They've had a bad few months on the prediction.
Well, right. I mean, look where we are. I mean, I'm still waiting for that other shoe to drop, but it may never drop. I mean, we've had tariffs kind of back and forth, and now we're starting to settle into kind of an idea of where we will be, more or less, going forward, because deal after deal is kind of being struck. So we're getting this idea that 15% tariffs are probably is something that Trump seems to love, is the 15% tariff. So and it's going to be either up. It's probably going to be 15% and up, or just 15%. I mean,
Right.
You're not going to go lower than that in all likelihood.
There's some tens. I think the European thing is tens.
Yeah. Well, I think what he's had is that the way they structure this is that there was the 15% is basically adding 10% to the old 5%, or 5% to the old 10%, or whatever. It wasn't like it was for them already. They'd already had some tariff. This is just raising it up a little bit more, but they were already at a certain level anyway. So it's just adding another 5 or 10% to the old tariff. So not as painful as it might seem to some, and it may not have effect. Jobs market, maybe a little soft, but we'll see. We'll see how these other numbers that come out. I mean, we're at the end of the month. Normally, the first Friday of the month, we get a bunch of economic numbers. We're going to see some numbers on this Friday. Give us a little more.
Quarterly growth is up 3.
Yeah, 3.
It's already out.
The growth figures, I don't know, because we've seen negative growth or low growth, and then we've seen them bounce back. There's a lot of things you can do with the numbers, numbers that go into growth that can affect, like GDP and stuff like that, or that say, because you front load your inventory, or you do all these things. There's so many factors that kind of make, as terms of how that goes. I don't know that the growth figure is a reliable figure as much anymore. There's a lot of these things have just changed over time, but I do think that I think some of the interaction between Powell and Trump has just been kind of, I don't know. I found it to be kind of humorous.
Yeah, I did too. It's like a walk
They're
around.
out in hard hats,
You can see Trump. I mean, I've seen any of the internet memes about it, but the one who makes them with the little kids who are dressed up to look like them, every time that Trump would say something, they would show the Epstein kid. I mean, the Powell kid. He'd be like, it's like he was really. I think he was really scared. So
I don't know. The look of those two kind of reminds me of the little people toys wearing construction hats that you get for your kids. You put them in a construction truck. It's just little people with hard hats. I mean, yes, Trump has some understanding of construction and building buildings. We get that. But a 1930s era building with the federal government involved, is a whole different animal.
Right. That's right.
So as you had said before, it's like, it's not like Jerome Powell is supposed to be the construction manager, right? That's not his area of expertise, is just to sit there with the architects and go, oh, okay, well, let's do this and do this.
Right. See, that was the other one. Is like he had a big advantage on Powell there because Trump, as you say, he does know this stuff.
Right.
And Powell does not.
Right.
But Powell's supposed to be running this project, and the project is not. And I think another question that came up in this is, this is the third building, right? We're talking about the building he was saying the cost overruns on. They have two buildings, and they're adding a third building. So how many people does it take to do this?
Right.
What are they doing?
Right. I mean that. So the buildings on Constitution Avenue are not overly large, right? I mean, they were set up almost 100 years ago, and so
okay. I agree that there's probably more.
Like, I've walked through those hallways when my father was working in the Eccles building before they built the Martin building and all this kind of stuff. And so now to a little kid, it looks huge because you've got these marble columns, floors. It's pretty, it's pretty impressive. I mean, that was kind of the build out of the day, was all of this stuff, right? Which today would cost a ton of money to continue doing. And then they want to add on, and then as I said, they're going to dig down. But the bottom line still is that where the question should be is that, what is the deal with the third building? Why did you need to take over the third building? We realized it wasn't being used, but why? Why did we need to do this?
Right.
What is your purpose that you've already?
What is going on that's making you add all these employees? What are you doing that says you need all this office space?
Right. Nearly 50 years ago, you built a 13-story building behind your main building because you had expanded the Federal Reserve. But why do you need to add a third building, even though it's smaller in scope than the one that you built 50 years ago? Why? And that is a question I haven't seen any answer to.
No, me either.
But boy, I tell you, when you tried to, last Friday I was doing some stuff with friends, and we were talking on another show, and we were searching, and we were trying to figure out, it's like, what is this third building? It was a little opaque at first, but I guess it's identified as 1951 Constitution Avenue or whatever, and so, but then as I read, I'm like, oh, they're taking over in an empty building. I don't even know who had the building beforehand, but do we really need to have them take over that building? Who's going to go in there? Why we do it? It's just
for what? Yeah.
For what purposes? Like, so something my father would just have another conniption fit about. It's like, why is the Fed expanding even more than it already had expanded? All right, enough of the Fed. I do want to get to this, which I think you can give me some good insight to, which is this EPA announcement that they want to roll back this 2009 agreement guidance, on greenhouse gases. It came up under Obama. It was, as far as I can see, was finagled. I think the Wall Street Journal, they called this Climate Liberation Day or something like that. So give us the inside, the skinny here from your opinion, because I know you've followed a lot of this over time.
Okay, so what happens is if the EPA wants to make a rule saying you can't emit X amount gas or whatever, Okay, it has to be able to tie that to something that endangers. Yeah, that's right.
I missed the comment earlier. Sorry.
um, there has to be this is the danger we're addressing with this rule, right? We're not just random, piling rules on people. We're trying to stop X from happening, right? So it made it with the Obama. Lisa Jackson was running the EPA. What they got the Obama administration and her did was they declared greenhouse gases, including carbon, to be dangerous criminals. They endangered us. That's why they call it an endangerment finding. Okay, so that enabled them to limit the output of power plants, impose all kinds of air and water regulations. The EV car mandate stemmed from that. So all these climate rules that they've put on since 2009, they were allowed to do that, but because of the endangerment finding, because carbon was declared by the government to be a danger to the American public. So the administrator of the EPA now, Lee Zeldin, former congressman from New York, has come in and said, and I guess obviously this comes from the White House, Russ Vaught is involved and so forth, that they're going to eliminate that rule, which means a lot that underpins most of the climate policy in the country. Now, if you look at what goes on in the EPA, there's basically two things. About half the budget is imposing these regulations, and half the budget is research grants. Now, I think Trump has already taken a big slice out of the pie for the research grants. And now they can really chop down the size of the other side of the program budget. So I think if you work at the EPA, you have a pretty serious problem, and you're not focused on air and water. If you're focused on air and water, you're fine. If you're trying to prove greenhouse gas and global warming stuff, you're in deep trouble. Now, so Trump proposes this. The machinations are now you have to prove that it wasn't a danger. It's a lot harder to take these things off than to put them on, and that'll likely be challenged in court. And they will. It'll be toward the end of Trump's term before this is that you can actually plant this flag, I would say, but it's going to happen now. I mean, you have a president who's pretty strong-willed about it, and you have Congress that would support it. And if they don't support it, I think you have enough bribery money out there from the energy companies to make it happen.
All right, I'm gonna catch up here.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's right.
Right. When government spends money, it's not done efficiently. That's Elon Musk's shtick, right? Is he realized the government doesn't know what anything costs, and they don't price things reasonably at all. And they play games to try to get a better price, but they don't know what a better price is, which makes it hard to do. Nor do they usually understand what would reduce the cost and allow it to be sold to the government for cheaper. So this is a case of that. It's like they don't, that's what EVs were. We didn't really know what that ought to cost. We didn't know what solar power should cost. So we overpaid Musk for it. And I read this week that he's going to be a trillionaire. It'll be the world's first trillionaire, and it's sometime in 2027. So that's kind of interesting. Then, of course, there's a million comments. No one should have more than $20 million. It's like, why? How'd you come up with that number? Right? And who's going to finance the really big stuff if no one has more than $20 million?
Yeah, I mean, part of government, it tends to grow and not shrink in size. And there really are few, if any, incentives for government employees to be efficient and cut costs for the most part.
Yeah.
The agency's budgets, no one wants to see their budget trimmed. So they continue, they try to spend their budget so they can say, we need more money, not less money. And it continues to grow and grow and grow. And we just get this monolithic horror show of, that's why you wind up with just products and expenses that are just out the wazoo, where in private industry, what do? You incentivize people to build your building or to build something or to do something efficiently and cost effectively. And if you beat the timeline, then you get a bonus,
Yeah, that's right.
for making it happen faster, without cutting corners, hopefully.
Right.
I mean, it's so but in government, it just doesn't work that way. Uh,
No, it almost encourages lethargy. It's almost
yeah.
better off if it's slowed down a little.
Well, look, look, you and I know that how many stories have we heard in our lifetime about government employees toiling away somewhere, collecting a, 6-figure salary, but in essence, they really don't do anything. And
Right.
they know they don't do anything.
Yeah.
But, it's like, how do you give up a 6-figure salary? Just report to work, sit at your desk, whatever, play solitaire on your computer if nobody cares, go home at the end of the day, collect your paycheck, and just keep moving on.
That's right.
Uh, there aren't enough, there's not enough looking at these people and saying, well, what this position is redundant. Why is this even going on?
That's
I don't
what
know.
the Doge was,
Yeah.
So that some of that has been cleaned out, and Doge is not done. Doge is still going in through federal agencies looking for ways. So
yeah, and I wonder if at some point, the government really tries to follow, public corporations, other, corporations who are now implementing, AI to, more and more to take care of tasks that were handled by humans. It's still a little tricky because it's not perfect. AI is it's learning as it goes.
yeah,
But now we're seeing
it's
corporations
being
saying,
fed leftist garbage like as fast as they can stuff it down.
yeah, no, but I think, and in time it'll get better, right? I mean,
Because you can see like Musk is fixing it. He's
right,
trying to address it,
right.
and if Musk gets that edge in the market by doing that, everybody else will try to fix it.
Yeah, so on this EPA thing, you mentioned Lisa Jackson. How many times did I hear the name Lisa Jackson when I attended the Wyrick lunch with Senator Inhofe there? Favorite every week, every Wednesday, he kind of mentioned her name, for all those years
Yeah.
about the latest thing going on there. And Inhofe was one of the great champions of fighting back against the EPA during his time in the Senate, and a great man. And then so Lisa Jackson, what does she do? She parlays this whole EPA administrator thing. She has been working for Apple for 12 years, handling all their environmental stuff and things like that. So you kind of know where Apple's direction is when it comes to things like that. But yeah, I can imagine the liberals and environmentalists are, they're just, they're having a hard time handling this one.
Yeah, they'll live through it.
Yeah, they'll right. I mean,
I really think they're going to make it.
Yeah,
for better or worse.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right, though. I mean, I think what you said earlier, though. So if there's somebody who's going to make this happen, it's Trump. I mean, this is yet another indication of where the Trump administration has been looking at stuff, and they said, look, we've got a few years to get some things changed and done for the better of the country. Things that just need to be reversed or eliminated, and we're going to go after it, and we're going to get it done. And so go forth and do it. That there's still a lot of questions about a lot of things that are out there that I don't know whether or not the Trump administration will make it happen. I mean, we just saw, it's not on the list, but we just saw the announcement that Union Pacific Railway wants to buy Norfolk Southern,
Right.
which would create a coast to coast railway network.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, imagine this. We have lived our entire life without this coast to coast, rail network,
Right.
which seems to make
coast
sense.
to coast railroad. I mean, you can put something on a train here and get it to LA or whatever.
But if it's
one company owning it, you don't need any intermodality and all that stuff. You could just put it on a car and send it.
Which is what happens is like, if you've got Union Pacific, you've got Norfolk Southern, if you want to get things from one side to the other, you have to deal with others to get it there, because your trains only run to this point. You've got to get on somebody else's trains and tracks to get to the next point. They can then take it to that final point, kind of a thing like that. This would just go. Now, the question with that, and I don't know if you've even thought about this, is just that, so the Surface Transportation Board has to approve this merger. It's 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Trump can nominate a a pro railroad, person to kind of push that over the top. Uh, but do you think he would? Do you think the unions, how much are they going to fight back on this? Because this is something I think the rail, unions, I don't think they like this stuff because they see efficiencies, and that's not
Right.
their bread and butter.
Right. They like the monitoring the track, right? They now used to be they literally had people on the train watching it go down the track, trying to find, defects in the track and so forth. And they had people who, were stationed at each place the train goes by to come out and look at the track. And now it's done digitally and they find much more, right? But it means you don't need that second person. So the what are they? The rail way, what do you call it? Right of way maintainers or something union. It's like it's sort of a catch-all railroad union. Guys are all against it, and they got the Biden administration to be on their side and block this progress. But you'll now see that go through. You got to remember, so it'd be interesting what happens because Union Pacific has a lot of track on this side of the country. It has more out west. It has some. It has accumulated in the last few years, like bought up, Illinois Central, Kansas City Southern, Texas Pacific, and so now it has some presence in the South. Okay, the North, the grain belt of the U.S. is sewed up tight by Warren Buffett, BSNF, Burlington Southern, the old
Burlington
Southern.
Northern Santa Fe, right? BNSF.
Yeah, Burlington
right?
Northern Santa Fe. That's what it is, BNSF. So that's what, so he bought an old airline, an old railroad, and he controlled all the northern traffic. That is why he gave Biden all this money, and is why he wanted Biden to stop the Keystone Pipeline, because the Keystone Pipeline was direct competition to taking it out by rail. So, don't ever mistake these with people who actually care about the good of the country. Don't, that's not what they're there. So, but, because it's, thousands of times safer by pipeline than it is by rail. So, so it'll be interesting to see like who grabs what market share and how that changes and, what role railroads have in shipping in the country. It's like, it seems that the demand is too fast now, for railroads. They don't seem practical because you can get something here from Los Angeles, but you're going to have to wait days. Right. But, some commodities like cars, it doesn't matter if you wait days, right? You could bring cars into the port of LA and send them over here on trains, so there's definitely business to be had.
Yeah, no, I think, the railroads, as far as I can see, one of the problems is, because there've been so many railroad operators around the country, and they require cooperation of each other, to get from A to B to C or whatever, is that you have these bottlenecks, and it would seem to me, at least on the surface, that if you could get railroads to consolidate so that they could get products kind of streaming through on their own, they're always going to act in their best interest. But if they control the track from one side to the other, then the chances are that the bottlenecks that hold things up in rail yards will disappear for a lot of products and make them more competitive and get you products faster than trucks, which sometimes get bogged down in traffic and stuff like that. Right. So, we need to have these kinds of things. I don't have a big problem with consolidation, for some of these things. The liberals, they don't like anything that, anything where you see consolidation, anything where that happens, they don't like the control to accrue to just a few. But sometimes that's the most efficient way to do things.
Yeah, and they're fine with Warren Buffett doing it because he gives them money.
All right. We'll move on. And one more quick thing too. So I think between the time we had the last show too, that Columbia University has agreed to pay a $200 million fine over 3 years so they can get their money back, their research money back.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that's a blueprint for how Trump is going to operate with other universities. he still has an ongoing, fight with Harvard.
Right. Some
Obviously,
movement on that one too this week. That
yeah,
he's talking to Harvard. They're
and
trying to work.
a lot of academics, liberal academics, they don't like this, but I mean, I don't know that Columbia had a lot of room to run with it. I don't know
Right.
they had a lot of
That's right.
choices.
They've clearly violated the laws, and they clearly were letting people victimize Jews.
Yeah,
They were allowing anti-Semitic behavior, and then you can say, some would even say encouraging it, but they were allowing it, and you can't allow it.
yeah. I don't I don't know that the Columbia University president necessarily believes that they were in the wrong, because I think liberals don't want to admit that. But this is, you also have a point where how much money is at stake here? How much more money will you spend fighting it? And it just may be better to go ahead and capitulate and say, let's move on, and we'll put in some, guardrails and other things to make sure this does not happen again,
Right.
and try to fix the things that the administration wants them to fix. All right, we also had this case of this, and we've had this little wave. We've had this, yeah. Here's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
right. which is part of the, but this is part of Ivy League's problem. More, I mean, this happens in academia, but the Ivy League has got to be one of the wealthiest group of colleges in the country.
Absolutely.
Their endowments are huge.
Yeah.
So going ahead and paying a penalty to get your access back to your research money and everything like that, it is a drop in the bucket. But hopefully they will fix the problems. No one wants this anti-Semitism to continue. Absolutely.
Right.
So, but anyway, I was mentioning we also had this case where we've had a wave of spate of violence across the country, including the one up in New York. And I don't know. I mean, there's something. I don't exactly know what happened here. I mean, I saw pictures, and you probably too. The guy's walking up to the building. He's carrying a gun.
Yeah, he's in the middle of the street. He's not hiding on the sidewalk. He's in the middle of the street. He's like Omar on The Wire.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I didn't go into it. I don't know what happened when he got inside the building exactly, but. How do you, if you're carrying this gun that way, exactly what did you, you're not, he wasn't like, wearing something where he can really hide that really well, as far as like,
right.
And he managed to get into the building and go up the elevator. What in the heck's going on there?
And nobody said it,
Yeah.
Nobody steps up. I mean, it's Kitty Genovese all over again, on that one.
Tragic loss of life. And then, you've got Mandami, he expresses regrets, but he's also a defund the police guy. I mean,
right.
And the policeman was shot. This off-duty police officer was shot in the back, as I understand. He never even had a chance to react to the situation. But I don't know. I understand that he wants to express his condolences and whatnot, but I don't think it's changing Mandami's position about he wants fewer police on the streets, which is not the right answer in New York City.
Right, that's right. It's New York City. I think it's going to go the other way. I also think by the time that election rolls around, whichever one of them saying we're putting the most cops on the street is probably going to win.
That could be true. That could be very true. You probably saw this interview that Chris Matthews had on the Charlie Rose's program. So, two things. One is that Chris Matthews.
One is, what the heck is Charlie Rose doing back on TV? Go ahead.
Well, it's his own network. It's his own show.
Oh, okay.
He's got I know. That was kind of my first thing. It's like, what, Charlie Rose? What the heck?
That's right.
But he's got like his own website, and he does these conversations with Charlie Rose, and he posts them to his website. So he has this thing with Chris Matthews, and Chris Matthews actually was somewhat praiseworthy of Donald Trump, saying, the guy's got a connection to the American public. He knows how, which is what the Democrats don't have, right? The Democrats have not been able to connect, but Trump seems to, connect on levels that others cannot connect to.
That's right.
And so, Chris Matthews continues.
The polls were lying. The polls say he's down. He's not down. I feel this everywhere I go. I think that too.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, even Chris Matthews said that he doesn't even believe the polls that showed
Right.
that Trump was down, right?
I mean, so since the election, right before the election, like in the weeks, just a few weeks before the election, Republicans moved past Democrats in total voter registration all over the country, right? And since the election, they have added about 1.2 million to their lead. The North Carolina has gone from about 235,000 more Democrats than Republicans to about 17,000 more Democrats than Republicans. Pennsylvania has gone from 1.2 million more Democrats than Republicans down to something like 23,000. So it's it's an overwhelming avalanche of stuff, and as people point out, if you're taking action, that's more than pollster calls you up and you say, who are you going to vote for? This guy, that guy, right? But if you're going to the trouble to look up how to change your party registration or register to vote, and you're doing that, carrying out all that, then you're pretty high propensity that you're going to vote like you're lining up, and you will be showing up at the polls, right? If you're 35 and you go register to vote, everybody does it when they're 18, right? But if you're 35 and you go register to vote, you're going to vote, right? You're doing that for a reason. You're like, I need to get involved in this, right? So, that's where we are on this. Is like the people who actually care about it and actually want to vote are going Republican hardcore. It used to be, for instance, a hallmark of this was Republicans loved it when it rained on election day. Remember? I mean, you've heard this, right? For years and years, because we want low turnout. High turnout worked against us. That's not the case anymore. Now, high turnout favors Republicans. So that's a whole new, and the Democrats are, they don't really know what to do with that because all their stuff is set up for high turnout because that's what they want. So it'll be interesting to see where it retrenches. The other thing is, their House approval rating is for Democrats. Democrats in Congress approval rating is in the teens, right? Democrats overall, it's like 21%. So everybody keeps telling you they're going to mop the floor in the midterms. Like, I don't really see it yet. And also, they're saying, Trump is underwater over all this stuff. Trump's overnights last night were over 52%. So he's back. They didn't get him. Epstein didn't get him. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you still think it's a non-story that these things that Tulsi Gabbard's putting out?
I still haven't. I mean, I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I'm still not getting enough there that I really want to concentrate on that. I mean, I think we have more important things out there than this at this point. But like I said before, I mean, it's just like if there was some illegality going on, that's fine. But I don't. I haven't been following the story closely enough to say that I can see that there's been absolute, something on the level of treason for Obama. It's like I'm not buying this yet, and I just think that's not the way we want to go on that. I mean, if you want to go after the other guys, that's fine, but
I think they're going to throw some bodies out in the street. John Brennan, maybe even Comey.
Yeah, I mean that may happen
to protect Obama. But I mean, the president's press secretary was asked about this, and she said, yeah, what he did is treasonous. And, like Scott Adams said, we're not going to, this story it's complex, right? Part of it is like you say, I'm really not hearing it, right? I'm reading the heck out of it, right? So I know all the little tiny details, but what does it take for it to break through to the America's consciousness, right? This was a serious thing. They crippled Trump's presidency for 2 years with this Russia stuff that they made up. I mean, that's essentially what's getting proven beyond any doubt right now, is that they all knew Trump wasn't colluding with the Russians, and they all signed off or participated at some in greater amounts than others to make it look like he had, so they could have something to hold against him. Obviously, the impeachments were nonsense, right? Political nonsense. So they're trying to say, okay, these guys conspired to cripple his presidency with an investigation that they knew was false. Okay, so that's kind of a new, you heard that scandal before? Not really, right? This is sort of a new twist. And what Scott Adams says is it is complex to the point where the users of the world who follow the news pretty closely don't yet get it, right? Have not yet signed on to why this is so bad. And unless people are arrested, they never will, right? Now, if one of those guys gets arrested, Brennan or Comey or Obama or any of them, Hillary Clinton's now a possibility too of getting arrested, right? If they get frog marched through the thing, then you will see, yeah, that's right. That's basically what it is. Yeah, good. They earned it. That's right. And so, when people start getting arrested, then we'll all stop and take another look.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, to try to charge President Obama with treason and say he was complicit to that degree, I think that's pressing a little bit. But the others, just as as Bob said, I mean, I don't think there's any love lost for most conservatives with Brennan, Clapper, Comey, those guys. We know that those guys were not good guys.
Right.
So yeah, if you're going to throw somebody under the bus, you throw those guys under the bus. And they probably.
And I think they will say, Obama will end up as an unindicted co-conspirator, like Nixon, in Watergate, something like that, where he's indelibly connected to it. His political future is dead. He's now a guy who participated in a conspiracy, ruins his legacy, whatever legacy he actually has, and the other people are punished as they should appropriately be.
All right, we have to really wrap this up. I want to give us a quick update on your Hall of Fame trip. Also, your thoughts on Ichiro's speech.
Okay. Well, so I didn't go to the Hall of Fame. We were going to. We were positioned to go. Okay, like seriously, Lori lined up a hotel room in Little Falls, which is like 25 miles away. And if you know anything about it, like the town that they hold this in is like 2,500 people.
Right? I've been there.
Yeah, it's a tiny little village, and and then 300,000 people to descend on this thing, right? So there's no room. Traffic's awful. The roads are the size that you get when you have 2,500 people, not 300,000. So it's a big, huge problem. So, but the night before, my CPAP wouldn't work.
Oh.
Right? So I could not sleep. So at that point, we said we better just go home. And it was probably a good deal because it was some rain. It ended up being a pretty like sketchy day up there. So I just had to come home. And then I got home and I'm like, man, I'm not going to be able to sleep again tonight. I'm like, you know what? I'm plugging that machine in one more time. I just got to make sure. And it worked. So,
I don't know what happened.
Still trying to catch up on my sleep.
But just your thoughts. I mean, I only heard a little clip about it. I heard that, a clip that's been circulating around, which is Ichiro talking about the one vote he didn't get. And then that writer is the invitation to have dinner at his home has expired. And he did it in English, which is wonderful.
Yeah. He was. Lori used to talk about that because she's a huge Mariners fan. That's why we wanted to go. But she's like, he carries this guy around to do his translation, but he speaks perfect English.
Yeah.
He just wanted to make sure that he didn't get anything wrong. He really is a perfectionist to a really rare degree.
Yeah, being half Japanese, he's definitely a hero to me, and this just solidified him in my mind. To do that speech and all that, and to whoever helped him put that together. That was a zinger to that writer. I loved it. I mean, the crowd reaction is like, whoa.
And Billy Wagner's like this one. The poor Astros. We got 3 people in there now, and all of their speeches have been boring, and his was too. You reboot the CPAP. If I only knew.
I guess you should have called her and texted Charlton.
Yeah, that's right, Charlton. I know it's late. He's usually up late though. So.
No, you were saying Billy Wagner.
Billy Wagner, yeah, Virginia guy who way down Southwest Virginia, very close to where Stephen F. Austin came from, the first governor of Texas, so or the president of Texas. Way down Southwest Virginia. I went to Ferrum College, a little D3 school down there. He's the first D3 guy to ever make the Hall of Fame. He finished with the lowest batting average against and the highest amount of strikeouts per 9 innings of any pitcher ever with the innings to qualify. But his speech was a little dry. He talked about Biggio. He did give a nice tribute to Biggio, saying, you know, your work ethic and how you approach baseball had a big influence on me and made me the player I am. So Biggio was there is also a member of the Hall of Fame.
Right. All right. And then finally, just a quick note, more notable people in passing. Hulg Hogan, who was really larger than life, passed away. Yep. And then Ryne Sandberg, the great Cub, passed away. And I have specific, feelings about that because Sandberg died of prostate cancer, which is what I'm fighting with all myself. And this just shows you the randomness or how different this cancer is to every individual. Because a lot of people like him, they do get treated, and then they do get technically, the doctor will say you're cured, and then they feel, oh, okay. But what they have to remember is that this cancer is just an insidious disease. Yeah. And what you're doing is that you're hoping that you're keeping it contained as much as possible. And then in Sandberg's case, it just rose up and it spread to other organs. And I mean, it wasn't long before he announced publicly, right, it spread to other organs, then he passed away. So it was the end was fairly quick and all that. And so, I'm already had spread to other organs. I already had treatment, and now I'm just kind of managing. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I feel okay, but who knows? Who knows when I'll go through something like Sandberg, or maybe I'll just get lucky and live, more years than the doctor thought, because that is really a lot of guesswork. They say, I think you've got this many years, but they really don't know.
They really don't know. And there's a guy who was pretty healthy, obviously, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Lived a good life, was a good person from all accounts, and a great baseball player, obviously. So it's a big loss. And that one kind of hit me. This is like the people that you've watched, right?
Yeah.
People that we were fans of are now in this situation.
Right. I mean, that's our generation of players is passing away as we go. So
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So we
stop.
All right, this may be the longest show we've done yet. We keep, this whole idea that I had of trying to shorten the show, it's not working.
It's gone the other way.
But I'm going to keep chipping away at this until I get there.
Let's get back down below an hour.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. This is funny. But anyway, I still think it's good stuff, right? Yeah. All right. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us today. I hope you please stay safe and stay well as always. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And always, God bless America. I am actually going to be tied up next week. So it looks like we're going to have to do this in 2 weeks. Okay. I can't find any other time. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. See you in 2 weeks. Hope you can last that long without our wit and wisdom.
That's